Using just Logic stock plugins, you can take a good vocal like this
Hey, where you going to?
and turn it into this.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
No waves, no fab filter, just Logic Pro plugins, and it still sounds radio ready. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to turn weak, boxy vocals into release-ready mixes, the free plugins in Logic that actually deliver pro results, and why producers still end up buying plugins anyway. I've mixed hundreds of vocal tracks using stock Logic Pro plugins, and I'll show you exactly what works. But before we touch a single plugin, there's one beginner mistake that kills vocal clarity even before you start mixing. Most beginners think vocal plugins make a vocal actually sound good. In reality, plugins are just the icing. The performance is the cake. So let's say you've got a solid dry vocal.
Hey, where you going to?
What's the first plugin to reach for? Before anything, I use a simple system on every mix, the AEL system. Ask what the vocal needs. Execute by adding a plugin and then listen. Did it help or hurt? So plugin 1 is EQ. Start by asking, are there any frequencies that need cleaning up? For example, mud, harshness, boominess, sibilance. If yes, execute and drop in a channel EQ in Logic. Not sure where to begin? Try a preset first to get close and then trust your ears. Logic's suggestion here with presets is just a starting point. It doesn't mean it's a full solution. Now listen, does it sound better? So here's how I might execute the channel EQ plugin for this vocal we're working with.
Now, one caveat here as well that I didn't mention is this vocal was pre-compressed on the way in. You don't necessarily have to do that. Still, you can follow these steps and you'll be fine. You'll notice actually just visually the dynamics of this vocal are pretty flat. Because I've compressed it a fair amount coming in, that's the style that I liked for this song. I'll touch more on that in the compression section. With EQ, I'm not overthinking it too much. I'm going to listen. Obviously, when you're EQing an entire vocal, you might EQ the verse differently, like these parts. Let's say this is the verse. And let's say this is the chorus here. What you could do is you could separate the tracks and have like a chorus vocal here and a verse vocal here, something like this. You could also automate the EQ, but for simplicity, sometimes it's nice just to have two tracks where you can do different EQs, because a lot of the times you might be singing in different ranges. So keep that in mind when you're EQing a vocal. And let's do the chorus vocal. So again, I'm not overthinking this too much, and I don't want to spend too much time on this when I'm producing a song too. So pop open the EQ, turn it on. First, AEL system, right? So ask, when I listen to it, is there something that should be subtracted? And then execute, and then see if it's better by toggling it on and off. So since I've already listened to it, I know that there's a bit of a low end that I could get rid of. So if I did something super dramatic like this, you'll hear it.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
A bit too thin, right? Because I'm dramatically cutting that vocal. In a male vocal, anywhere around 100 hertz or more or less. But I don't want to give you just numbers to follow, because when I've learned EQ, I did learn it that way, where I would watch tutorials or I'd learn from engineers. They say, cut at this number and do this at that number, and it's just not the way it should happen. It should just be by ears. So if I say numbers, I might do that just because of habit, but keep in practice that you don't you use those as let's say boundaries or starting points. So I might do something around here, and you'll note and you notice that the what was it? The pop vocal preset kind of did something similar, right? I think it also, the pop vocal preset boosted around here. I might do the opposite, and I might do a little bit of a dip around there, just because. And I'll show you if I boost it here what that would sound like.
Hey, where you going to?
You can hear it really on the hey. In this, it sounds a little bit boomy.
Hey, where you going?
Now if I do a bit of a dramatic opposite,
Hey, where you going to?
It's more clear, but it's too thin. So I really only want to drop that a little bit, because at 0 dB where it is flat, it doesn't even sound that bad. It's just a problem area I know that's in most vocals, but in my voice especially. Other than that, when I'm listening back, I'm not hearing anything I need to really fix. I nailed the performance. hey, good for me. And then I like to play with just giving a bit of air on the high shelf, but I'll actually save that for another plugin that has a bit more texture later in the video. So this is all I'm going to do right now, and I don't really care that it's that small. I might come back to it later in the production, and if something pops out to me, but I'm not. I used to do this where you kind of Swiss cheese your vocal, and you're doing all sorts of things like this, and you're adding all this stuff, and I just don't do that anymore. I just try to get the right performance, and I use EQ as more of a shaper a little bit here and there.
Now, there are two ways that the AEL system can go completely wrong. One, the execute trap. More on that when I talk about plugin number 4. And 2, the solo trap. Listening in solo gives you zero context. Always check your vocal and how it sounds in the mix. Okay, so even if you have a perfect EQ, pitch problems can ruin a mix. So here's the trick with Logic's pitch correction tool. But before doing anything, we should ask, does this vocal need any tuning? If yes, execute and add Logic's pitch correction plugin. Set the root and scale, and use a slower response time if you want to keep it natural. Listen back. Did it improve the vocal? In this case, I'm actually going to skip it. The vocal's already in pitch and the genre doesn't really call for it. So I just don't need it. Like, remember, does it serve the song? Next is plugin number 3, which is a compressor plugin. This is where your vocal is really going to come to life. So ask, could your vocal be a little more stable or consistent? For instance, are there some parts of the vocal that could be softer or louder? Execute and add a compressor in Logic Pro. Listen back to it. Does it sound stronger to you? Or does it sound too distorted maybe, or just too loud? So Logic gives you several compressor models, but if they sound the same to you at first, that's completely normal. I was in the same position. Your ears will catch up though. However, you will hear a difference if we push some of the knobs dramatically. Let's take this example here.
We can easily start with a preset, voice, and or compressor tools, or compressor by type. So I don't really know what to do. I might go through a bunch of these. I can see here we have piano, so there might be something here for vocals. So FET vocal 1. Let's see how just that sounds out of the box. I'm going to go right ahead and just turn the auto gain as off, because sometimes if you don't, it will sound a lot louder, and that sometimes can make it just sound better, because volume is usually better. It usually makes it sound better. So I just have that as off. So let's get context again by just asking, like, okay, what would this vocal need, and listening in context with the other instruments around it. So with it compressor off,
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
let's turn it on.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind?
And that didn't do anything. I can tell that because the compressor isn't working when this needle is just still. When the needle is bouncing, that's when it really starts working. So we'll have to start editing it ourselves anyways, and that's okay. I want you just to notice if I dramatically do some things here, like a fast attack, a fast release, and a really, really low threshold, you'll hear the vocal become distorted, which I want you to hear, because you'll hear what a really compressed vocal will sound like at this level.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
And you'll notice it got quieter, right? Because you can think of a compressor as like, well, we're essentially, we are quieting some parts, but right now I'm telling the the compressor with my dials here. I'm saying anything that goes to negative 36 dB, turn that down, which is pretty much every part of the vocal. So I'm basically telling the compressor like, hey, just turn the whole thing down basically, and it's squashing the vocal, which it makes it sound compressed, or like distorted in a way, even though it's quiet. So as I bring this up, you'll start to hear the vocal more.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at? Never see the traps.
Okay, so that's good that we're hearing the vocal now a bit more at a decent threshold, but the attack is a little bit too much, meaning that the compressor is engaging too quickly. So I'll lower off the attack, and I'll also lower off the release a little bit. Makeup gain is still off, and the ratio I'll leave it around a 4:1 ratio. And then I just will play with the threshold until literally that I'm thinking in my head, hey, does this sound consistent enough? Does it sound very not smooth necessarily, but just does it sound like it will sit in the mix with the guitar that I'm hearing right away? Is it like more present than the guitar? These kind of, it's difficult for me to almost like talk about it because it's all based on my ears. So I'm really just thinking like, hey, is this sounding good? Is this sounding good?
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at? Never see the traps that I fall into.
And I'm keeping in mind as well that I know for a fact that this vocal was compressed on the way in. I do that with UAD console, and I know that, okay, so if I compress it a little bit on the way into Logic, then I know that in Logic I'm going to have to, post-production, I can do less compression because it's almost ready to go as is. And I'm going to leave it at that. I've asked, I've executed, and I've listened.
Okay, so what's plugin number 4, and what is that disaster that can happen if you follow the AEL system? Well, plugin number 4 here is where we shape tone, boost body, sparkle, or air. I like to do this with the vintage EQ collection in Logic.
Okay, in the EQ section down here, there's this vintage EQ collection, console, graphic, and tube EQ. All are interesting. I typically resort to tube or console out of personal preference. This one is it might look complicated if this is the first time you're seeing it, but it's actually less complicated in my opinion than this EQ. There's only a few things you can do with this one. So I'll go left or right. This is just a low cut. So if I just increase this dial like this, the vocal will become thin.
Hey, where you going?
And as I bring it back, you'll hear more body of the vocal. So there's only a few like notches, let's say, you can do. So that's why I find them a lot more simple actually.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
So I might have that, since I've done the low cut in the channel EQ, it doesn't really matter to do this, but it's nice, it's fun to try. These dials here, these two are connected, and then these two are connected, and then this one is just high gain. Like you don't have it like this shelf here. All it is one dial, like you turn up or down with volume. So it's just way easier. So I might add some sparkle or air, let's say, by increasing this dial, and you'll hear the air lift in the vocal as I do that.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at? Never.
You can hear that, right? It's way too much, but so back it off. And I would go maybe something around 2-3 dB. Always just listening back. Hey, does it sound good? I'm executing and I'm listening in context with the other instruments. You can also use this dial down here, this blue one, which goes to 0.3, so that would be like 300, and then this would be like 1000, 1.6 or 1600. and all the way up to 7,000K. These are numbers, these are the frequency numbers. So if I go to this 3.2, now I'm stuck at this frequency range and I can go lower or higher like that, where I could maybe find some body, maybe find some, what's the word? Harshness in maybe the 2, 3, 4K range. But I'm not really bothered by it, to be honest, so I'm just gonna leave it at 0. Or I can hold Command or Option and just click there, click the button, and it goes back to 0.
But here's the danger. Every plugin changes your vocal's tone. And if you're not careful, you start adding new ones just to fix what the last one messed up. So watch this. Like as I boost the highs to add some air to this vocal, it sounds good, but then it also introduces more S's and sibilants to the vocal.
Never see the traps that I fall into. Never see the traps that I fall into.
So now I need a de-esser plugin, right? Unless I just backed off the high boost in the first place. So you can avoid this endless loop of just being intentional with the plugins, one plugin at a time, and then toggle them on or off often so you can hear what they're actually doing. Okay, so now you've got a great vocal sound, but it still floats above your instrumental mix. Plugin 5 is reverb, and it's how we sit the vocal in the mix. Step 1, ask, where should the vocal sit? Should it be small or intimate, big or lush? Execute by adding a small room or plate reverb for intimate vocals, or try adding a large concert hall for lush vocals. Listen back. Does the reverb like glue into the mix? Does your vocal sound like it's part of the instrumentation now, or maybe it's just not matching the vibe because it's too big or too small? So let's drop in Logic's free Quantec reverb and start with a preset.
The Quantec Verb is fairly new. It's a recent plugin that Logic's introduced, and they have great presets as starting points. So I'm going to go for this song. I'm hearing a smaller room, something like a booth or a bright booth, maybe a studio, bouncing through some of these. I don't really care which one I pick, to be honest, because I'm likely going to edit my own times and my own EQs here. So I'll just play again. I know I want a reverb, so I've asked. I've executed by adding the plugin. Now I really just listen back to hear how it sounds and if it's in the right space to where the guitar is and if it's fitting the vibe for me.
Hey, where you going to? Where's...
Don't like that at all as a starting point. Sounds very, very harsh to me. And I think it's because I've left the harshness on here. Okay, so let's bring that back from the last example. Okay, so let's start with a bright booth.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at? Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at? Never see the traps that I fall into. It ain't all bad when you look back.
Getting closer, I think the room size makes a big difference when you... I like this dial a lot here.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
It's super subtle, and that's kind of the reverb that I'm looking for. Is a very, very subtle reverb. You'll maybe notice these reverbs less the smaller reverbs because they're small. If I was to make a larger reverb on this, you'll easily hear it more with the fact that it's just actually a bigger reverb.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
You can easily hear that one, right? And that's a good starting point too. It's not wrong. It's just dependent. It's just really, does it sound good to you? Does it fit the style of your song? Does it work with in context of what's with the other instruments. You also don't have to use this EQ, or sorry, this reverb. You can use any of the reverbs that come in Logic. The Space Designer is also really interesting. It has interesting presets, and the chroma verb too.
At this point, the core is done. Now it's up to your taste. So ask, what else would improve the vocal? Maybe modulation, saturation, echo, delay, more distortion. Execute, then listen. And does it serve the vocal? Does it serve the mix? This is where paid plugins do shine. They deliver fast, creative results that can take sometimes more effort with stock tools. For example, I use Soundtoys Vocal Rack all the time for quick textured effects with zero fuss, like this.
Hey, where you going to? Where's your mind at?
When it comes to the fundamental plugins, the stock ones in Logic work great, but as you develop your taste and your style, you're going to want to explore paid plugins too to push your creativity even further. So whether you use stock plugins or paid plugins, none of it really matters without a great vocal performance. So watch this video here, and I'm going to show you how I created and produced a lead vocal from scratch, and then how I actually took the whole song from a voice memo to a fully finished production. So I'll see you in there.